Hey everyone, what's up? I'm Coach Lauren. This is Coach Justin, and we are here today to talk to you about having a balanced plate or healthy plate. We've spent the past few Wednesdays talking about different portion sizes when it comes to veggies, protein, carbs, fats. Today we're going to put it all together and show you what that should look like for a meal on a plate and a meal in other forms, because we know not everything is on a plate. So hopefully this is beneficial to you guys. You can post some questions as you have them in the comments, and generally we answer the questions afterwards. It just makes it a little easier. But feel free to ask anything you want to ask. We will answer your question at the end. And Justin will be dropping some graphics too in the comments for you to check out. So what are we talking about when we talk about a balanced plate? We are talking about this fabulous drawing that I did. So this is, and Justin's going to drop a little graphic for you, but this is what we want to shoot for when we go for portions on our plate. We really want to aim to make half of our plate 2 servings of veggies. And then the other half of the plate, we're going to do 1 to 2 servings of protein and 1 serving of healthy carbs. We can also have 1 serving of healthy fats. So why is this important to do? Because portion sizes and things can really make a difference, with our goals. And also sticking to your portions is a great way to make sure you're getting all of your vitamins and nutrients in. And whether you're looking to build muscle, you're looking to lose weight. So all of this plays a role in that. So I'm going to kick it over to Justin to talk about a little bit about why we focus on these as we build our plate together.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was trying to drop some graphics down there for us, but apparently I can't do that from where I'm at. So I'm going to do it right after this stream, so you guys will get that in there. So for the balanced plates, for the healthy plates that we're building, Lauren just covered over kind of the portion sizes a little bit and what that might look like. 1 to 2 servings of protein, or about 1/4 your plate. 2 servings of veggies, about half the plate, or a serving of carbohydrates like rice, potatoes, pasta as about 1/4 your plate, and a thumb for the serving of your healthy fat, 0-calorie beverages. So proteins, this covers kind of like our big macronutrients that make up our plate. Our protein, building blocks for our muscles, help us recover from our workouts. Those carbohydrates, as our bodies are burning to use for fuel. And most meals out, something to keep in mind as we're dining out, most meals out will include extra servings of carbohydrates, just because the restaurants want you to feel like you're getting your money's worth. And usually carbohydrates are one of the cheapest things that they can give you. So they'll typically add extra carbohydrates to your plate. So it's something to keep in mind as you're dining out. That's an opportunity to maybe adjust the serving size and to take a look. The other one is those healthy fats, and this can be burned as fuel as well, and it helps with nutrient absorption. And this is another one too, when you're dining out, kind of assume that most of your meals already include this, and you might not necessarily have to add it to your meal. They're typically going to cook most of your meals in some sort of fat, so adding it probably won't be necessary. But as you're messing around at home with some things, that's the opportunity to maybe include it with a lot of your meals.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. That's such a good point, because I know most restaurants, especially here in the States, portions are quite large. Sometimes, it's a good idea to ask for a little takeaway container when they bring you your meal, especially if it's a huge amount like that. And then they give us the bread basket and, the olive oil for dipping, and they're probably cooking our food in some sort of fat or oil, like you mentioned. So all good things to be aware of when you're going out.
I know for me, when I'm dining out, I've gotten into a weird habit of already asking for a to-go box right when at the beginning of the meal, and I'll have that with me, and I already plan on putting some of it to take with me. Typically, because going into it, I know the portion is going to be pretty large right off the bat, and we get some weird looks sometimes. But after a while of doing it enough with people, they're kind of used to it. But kind of one little strategy that's always worked well for me when dining out.
That's awesome. It is important to remember that while this might seem, now I'm not going to say this seems easy, because I know it is challenging when we're starting out to make half of our plate vegetables. But this seems like an easier example when you have a plate than say a sandwich, or say pasta or a wrap. So we're going to get into that in a little bit about how you do that according to this plate. But realize that not all meals are going to look like this. So you may have a fatty cut of meat, and that may, be your fat and your protein. You may have, legumes and lentils, and they might be mixed in with a grain. So now your protein and your carbs are mixed together. There's going to be situations like that, or a fish that's cooked in oil. Now you've got your fat and your protein together. That's okay. Like, don't have a panic moment about that. Just be aware of that. Kind of notice that, like, okay, this is put together this way. This is put together this way. And you don't have to count calories, but calories do count, right? So we want to remain in a calorie deficit if that's our goal for weight loss. Or if we're looking to bulk up, we want to be hitting, whatever calorie range we're aiming to hit. Justin, can you talk a little bit more about some calorie awareness?
Yeah, I definitely like the term of F calories, but build calorie awareness. So not obsessing over the calorie amount, but just creating some awareness around how much we're eating on a regular basis. And again, like you mentioned, doesn't necessarily mean you have to track calories. That's a tool that I use every once in a while, and I find it to be effective as like a strategy for a week to two, just to create a little bit more awareness. I know some of my clients really dig that too. They love the numbers and that type of feedback. But if it's not for you, if it's not the right fit, there's plenty of opportunities to do that. I think just simply reading labels and learning, taking a look at the serving sizes, the calories in foods, reading like the proteins, carbs, fats, and kind of just building around awareness around how much you're eating on a regular basis is a really, really great place to start. Looking up nutrition info online, whether it's through like a MyFitnessPal or nutrition data, which is a great one too, because I don't think it's like sourced out, so you get really accurate information. I think it's Nutrition Data Self or something like that. I can link to it in the chat there, and also at restaurants as well too. And keep in mind when we eat, the calories and stuff they list at restaurants will probably be off because it's the way that they prepare it is going to be different. Each chef is going to be different, but at least gives you kind of an idea of what you might be coming in during the course of a day. I know I've had one client who we were really excited. She went into like, I think it was like a California Pizza Kitchen. She grabbed a really great salad. It was like a cashew chicken salad, whatever. And we're like, man, that's awesome. It was like the 1% better than she normally would do. But we learned more. It was like 1,000-calorie salad, and our mind was like kind of blown. So just the opportunity to learn a little bit more about our foods and what we're eating can make such a huge difference. And we treat it like building skills and learning and educating and getting ready for, boss battles. You're just kind of building your arsenal right there.
I love that. I love what you said about the calories and the labels. And you may be at a restaurant with a heavy-handed chef who is going overboard on the oil, and it doesn't match what it says it is on the menu. We don't know. And a chef's job is to put out really good tasting food.
Yeah.
So, or with a nutrition label, I know, at least in the United States, that I think the FDA or USDA allows like what, a 20% or 25% margin of error in either direction on a calorie count. So if something says 100 calories, it could be 100, it could be 125, or it could be 75. Mm-hmm. So it's something to keep in mind. And that is why I love portions, because I feel like, obviously the size of the plate matters. We don't want to have like a trough, but if we have like a normal, dinner plate, and we do half the plate of veggies, and we kind of stick to this, quarter and quarter, that sort of controls the calories a bit for us, just from a visual standpoint. It's an easy way to gauge, how much we're actually eating.
I'll share my plate. I think a few people know that I don't own plates. I have bowls, but I don't own plates at home. I use Tupperware for everything. This one's a little tougher to see. I have glass ones too, but they're dirty. So I had to grab one of these. But I love this because it takes a lot of the guesswork out of portion sizing. Is this perfect? No, it's actually probably a little small for someone like myself that's very active in some of the areas, but it gives me an idea. Like I can play around with, putting veggies in this bigger one and proteins and carbs over here. Or maybe I can play around with putting some carbs over here. and protein and veggies, and kind of playing around with my meals and taking a little bit of the guesswork out of portion sizing. So lesson learned, get rid of all your plates, buy Tupperware. Will make portion sizing easier for all of us.
It is really good. I bought some Tupperware. I got like 6 of the little glass ones, and I
Yeah.
thought they were bigger, and they arrived and I was like, oh, I'm gonna be hungry. Like the first time they came, I was like, these are too small. This can't be right. And then
Well,
you like measure it out and you're like, oh, I guess I need to get used to like eat. I'm probably eating too much healthy food. Like we all have that moment where it's like you have to pay attention because just because it's healthy food doesn't mean that it's good for us to eat more, of it than we need.
I agree. I probably ordered the same ones as you too, because I have some glass ones as well too. They came and I was like, are these for babies? Like, what did I just do here? So I had to order some other ones, but oh well, lesson learned.
So let's talk about, this is something that an awesome private coaching client of mine asked me. So this is sort of where this came out of. So don't be afraid to ask questions, guys, because we could end up turning it into a video for you. But his question was, how do I make, all the other meals I want to make following this? Because this can seem, pretty tricky to translate into a sandwich. So if we're going to do a sandwich according to this healthy plate, I would say let's keep that 2 servings of veggies in mind. It might not be possible to hit 2 servings on a sandwich, but we could give it a shot. And for 1 serving of healthy carbs, I might start with a piece of, multigrain bread. I'm going to pick my protein. So since I'm plant-based, I'm going to do something like tempeh or a veggie burger or lentil burger or something like that. And then I'm going to go for the lettuce, tomato, onions, pickle. I could add sauerkraut, I could add cucumber. I mean, you can do a stack of veggies on a sandwich. And then for a healthy fat, you could add some avocado. If you want to drizzle a little olive oil, if you want to sprinkle some, flax seeds or something on there. So that's a good example of like a plant-based sandwich that is according to the healthy plate. Justin, how would you put a sandwich together typically?
Yeah, I would definitely do it in a similar manner as well too, and that would be a really good opportunity. That's probably where I would also take an opportunity to look at labels and notice things as well too, and kind of create a little bit more awareness around like, oh, interesting, calories in the bread, carbohydrates in the bread. Same thing with if I was using any like deli meats or something like that, similar to kind of learn a little bit more like, oh, there's nothing on this label. What is 4 ounces of turkey? What does that like look like physically? And, what does that look like calorie wise for me as well too? So I would approach it in a very, very similar way as well too. And that was such a great question because that can be very, very confusing. Like when you're approaching stuff like that. And even with, we were talking earlier with things with like chili or that you might cook where you're just kind of throwing everything in. And one way is to just kind of estimate the portions using those hands that we talked about before you throw everything in. Or if you even want to mess around, and again, this is just experimenting, maybe for women starting with about a fist serving of like something like chili. So filling up like a bowl with like a fist serving, which is usually like a cup and a half. And then 2 for men. So something like soup, chili type stuff. And then again, you kind of play around like, that didn't really fill me up. So you can increase or decrease that around the next meal.
So you just made me think of something. So I'm going to kind of put you on the spot with this, but could you no hiding, could you do this with pizza?
Oh yeah, that's a great question. So when it comes to stuff like that, this is my strategy. So it'd be great so if anyone's watching this stream, I would love to hear your strategies when it comes to this as well too, because I was actually thinking about it when you were talking. When it comes to stuff like pizza, I always approach it like 2 hands. So I'm gonna have 2 slices. Like that's my goal. And then I'll reassess after that. And then I'll try to add something that I'm really proud of with it. So like a side salad. I'm gonna eat the side salad first, then I'm gonna have the 2 pieces of pizza. I know a couple of girlfriends of mine, not girlfriends, that would
female friends.
Too much. Yeah. They do 1. They feel like that's a good place for them to start, and then they reassess and they kind of do something similar as well too. Like, hey, I'm going to do something that I'm proud of first along with this, and then I'm going to enjoy this pizza, eat it slowly, and and take it in. Along those lines, with something maybe like, because I love ice cream. So that's another one too. Like it's one that I'll, eyeball the portion, maybe like that fist or something size serving, but I'll make like adjustments at the next meal. It's like, oh, interesting. This is like a very, high fat food. I'm going to enjoy it. And at my next meal, I'm just going to include less fats with that meal. Or
I
if
love
I
it.
have a meal where it's like higher in carbohydrate, like whatever it might be, hey, this, I'm aware that this meal has a lot of carbohydrates in it. That's cool. I'm going to have a little bit less. I'm going to enjoy it. I'm going to have a little bit less at my next meal.
That's awesome. And it's such a great point because you don't have to do this at every meal. You
Yes.
can do this. Maybe you get this at one meal. Maybe your next meal is really veggie heavy, and maybe your next meal is pizza. It's going to balance out at the end of the day
Mm-hmm.
if you're just paying attention in general.
Yeah, the plate I think is a great compass of something to shoot for. It's like I'm gonna do my best to try to hit this as I can for my like 3 meals. That's okay. I'm aware that sometimes it might be challenging, but that's what I'm gonna shoot for. It's like just like having a target. It helps, you know where you're aiming versus not having one at all.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. The next meal I want to talk about, because it's a popular one, is pasta. So, how would we make a healthy plate version of pasta? For me personally, I always go heavy on veggies in the marinara sauce. And that's a good way I can add, steamed broccoli. I could add mushrooms. I could add spinach. I mean, spinach, you could have a big pile of spinach and you steam it and it turns into this little thing. So you can add a lot of spinach in a marinara sauce and get your 2 servings in that way. And then for pasta, if you just had a whole wheat pasta, that's going to count probably as your carb. But if you did a lentil pasta or a bean pasta, that's probably going to count as your carb and your protein. And if you eat meat, how would you add your protein in a pasta,
Yeah.
Justin?
First, spinach is probably the most disappointing food of all time. It's like so big and bulky, and then the minute you cook it, it just
Yeah.
turns to nothing.
Yeah.
So disappointing every time that I eat it, but I do like it. It's in the fridge right now. For me, whenever I'm making like a pasta or something like that, I'll always I like to cook the meat separately so that I can like just see it. And then again, I'll aim for that palm or 2 palms size serving. So I like cooking stuff separately because it allows me to break up the portion sizes a little bit easier for myself.
Nice.
So that's always my strategy when it comes to like combo foods like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'll add them all together at the end.
Mm-hmm. And then in that situation, if you do have, like, say you had something like meatballs that might have a little more fat in it, you probably don't have to add a healthy fat.
Yeah.
You could do like a sprinkle of the Parmesan cheese or vegan cheese, or if you're having pasta and you're not doing a red sauce and you just did a little olive oil, that's going to be your healthy fat. Just definitely pay attention to olive oil because I know it's something that everybody likes to use, but it's very easy to pour 2,000 calories of olive oil and not realize you're doing it. So that's something I would definitely recommend measuring out, or get an oil mister. Those are
Yeah.
really cool. You just pump it and spray, and that keeps the portion size down. But yeah, pasta it's definitely one that you can make work with the plate just by adding in more veggies, adding in, more protein, or switching up the type of pasta that you're using.
Yeah, I like it. I typically will measure the fat servings out as well too, because I feel like it's the hardest one for me to eyeball. Super
Mm-hmm.
challenging to eyeball like a thumb. So that's the one
It
where if
is.
it's like nuts and seeds, I'll weigh that portion out. Or if I'm using olive oil, I'll use like a tablespoon or coconut oil or something like that, or my kryptonite almond butter. I'll definitely do that with that as well too, because I feel like it's the most difficult one. The rest a little bit more easy to navigate when it comes to the hand size portions and building up that balanced plate.
Yes. So do you just want to remind people using their hand, how do they measure protein, veggies, carbs, and fat?
Yeah, this is always fun. I feel like we do this on all of the streams. So for 1 serving of protein, that is your palm for women and 2 palms for men. That's roughly around 3 to 4 ounces per palm, or around 20 to 30 grams of protein per palm. And then for veggies, 1 serving is about a fist for women and 2 for men. And that's typically 1 to 2 cups. 1 serving of carbs is 1 cupped handful. That's right around like a half cup, and then 2 cupped handfuls for men. I wish I could show it there that way. And then a serving of fat is that thumb or 2 thumbs for men. And that's typically about a tablespoon. And if you want grams on that one, it's right around like 7 to 12, grams per serving.
Nice.
Which can help as you're reading labels and stuff like that. Kind of creates that awareness.
And we'll post a cool superhero-ish graphic that shows you all the different hand sizes after the chat. So last thing I want to touch on is maybe some of our favorite meals that make this easy. My favorite is probably, you may have heard of it. Some restaurants will call it a Buddha bowl. Some places will call it a macro bowl because it covers all your macronutrients. But it would just be a bowl that has, like quinoa, veggies, lentils or beans, and then some avocado. So I'm like covering all the groups in one bowl. There's so many different versions of that you could do. You could do it, with a Mexican style with some salsa. You could, do some teriyaki and make it a little more Asian tasting. There's so many different ways you could, make it a little more Indian or Thai, depending on the seasoning. So that's one of my favorites.
One of mine, I'm going to go 2 because they're different. One of mine is lamb. I love lamb. I've mentioned this before. I spent some time in like Greece and it was all over the place over there. And I really, really enjoyed it. So like a side of lamb, which is a fattier cut of meat. So I typically won't add any healthy fats to it. And this is like super simple and basic, but it's one of those, hey, this is super simple. It's easy for me to make and I love it. So I'm going to do it a lot. And it's some white rice with artichoke, and not a whole artichoke because I have no idea how to cook it. It's just frozen artichoke that I can heat up in the microwave and then seasoned up with some salt. And then some of these blends that I have, like an all-purpose seasoning and whatnot that I've mentioned on the streams as well before. That's one of my like go-tos. I just love it. It's super simple and basic. The other one is it's Greek yogurt with protein powder mixed in, and then just a handful of berries that I just grab out, blackberries, and I throw it in, mix in there. There's not veggies in there, but I'm totally cool with it. It's usually like my breakfast on most days. So that's, again, another great example of like not a perfect balanced plate, but we're covering a lot of the bases, and that's totally cool. And then I'll throw some almond butter and stir it in there, put it in the fridge, and it's super satiating and I love it. And it's really easy for me to make. It takes like a minute. So
awesome.
Another one for me.
Do I have any others on here? Yeah, I go for a veggie burger a lot. I'll make my own veggie burgers and just load it up with veggies and then do that on a multigrain bread or bun. And then the other one is the bean pasta, like I mentioned earlier, with the marinara and veggies. That's always like an easy, quick go-to. And that may not cover everything, especially if I'm just grabbing like a regular pasta and it's not a bean pasta, but I know I'm getting the veggies in, getting the carbs in, and then maybe I'm going to have more protein at my next meal to make up for that. So just something to keep in mind, like remember these are practices we need to stay flexible with it. And just remember that we're practicing this stuff every day. Don't get too attached to the outcome. Just focus more on practicing the habit and seeing how you do with it, and then just adjusting for the next meal.
I've got some parting words of wisdom, I think, too, which can maybe simplify it. Is just to kind of take a look at the balance plate and maybe identify 3 to 5 of your favorite proteins, 3 to 5 of your favorite veggies, 3 to 5 of your favorite carbs. Same thing with the healthy fats as well, too. And kind of build a little master list of yourself. Like, I don't know why I'm doing this, but build a master list for yourself of like grocery shopping and how you can mix and match those to make really sweet meals of awesome for yourself. To simplify the process at first, once you get really confident and comfortable with everything, and then you kind of expand from there. Awesome.
Well, I think we've covered it. Post your questions below. We will hop on here and answer them shortly. And thanks. I hope this was helpful, guys.
Hi, guys. Thank you so much.
Bye.